Is it on? Is it working? Aha! Hi there, everyone. My name is Mickey's Magic 89, and this is Out of the Abyss, Episode 1. So, I've been a dungeon master, I guess about 6 to 8 months now. I've been a player for a long time. I run a homebrew campaign on Tuesdays, and the campaign that I was a player in ended 2 months ago. So in the meantime, I've been preparing to be the new DM for that group. So we're running Out of the Abyss. That way I don't have to keep track of my own world and another of my own world, and I don't put two groups in the same my own world, because then they might interact and that would get weird, especially since one of the players is in both groups. So, again, my name is Mickey's Magic, and I'm the Dungeon Master for Out of the Abyss. Let me introduce you to our cast real quick, our players. My friend James is playing Sir Laan, a Genasi wizard, divination wizard. He has a very interesting accent. It's not. It's supposed to be kind of Middle Eastern. For now, we're settling on that he's from Matt Mercer's continent of Marquette, Ankara specifically. Whether that fits in Matt's world or not, well, that's the accent he's going for, and that's kind of where we put him, just because, hey, why not? Next on the list, we have William the Seahawk Darrington, a swashbuckling rogue. Very charismatic, very sly, very good with a rapier. Played by my friend Mark. Next up, we have Halt Garrick, who is a human variant ranger with the new Unearthed Arcana. Personally, I feel that is way over compensated by wizards, so he's got some crazy new powers that we still need to test fully. The half-orc monk, known only as Seth, is played by my friend Preston. He was the DM in our last campaign. I think he's happy to sit this one out. Forgot to mention, Halt Garrick, played by David, is a ranger, Deep Stalker Path. And Seth, played by my friend Preston, is going for the Way of Shadow monk. Number 5 on our list is Terendal Valar. Valor is how he says it, but it's spelled Valar with V-A-L-A-R. It's played by my friend Jeff. He doesn't like drow. It's part of his backstory. And if any of you have played Out of the Abyss... Oh, spoiler alert, if you want to play Out of the Abyss, stop watching. Go somewhere else. Have you left yet? Good. So, now that everybody here knows that spoilers are coming, this is kind of their journey, that I get to go along with them. Yay! They all started out in prison cells. Well, a slave pen. They all start out in the drow outpost of Velkenvelve, lorded over by Mistress Ilvara of House Mizrim. She's not a very nice lady. She's not. She has a tentacle rod that she beat many of the players with prior to us starting. It's just kind of like, oh, by the way, this happened. there is her former lieutenant of the outpost by the name of Jorlan Duskrin, but he recently suffered an injury combating a black ooze. Gave him kind of like, yeah. So he's like Drow Two-Face. Mussed him up a little bit, more than a little bit, a lot of bit. The new second in command of the outpost, the new lieutenant, Shor Vandry, he's going to be important later, carries the wand of viscous globs that Jorlan used to. He also sleeps in the quarters below Ilvara in the Hanging Tower. She and Jorlan used to have a thing, and now that he's not as pretty anymore, there's a new lieutenant in the house, and bow chicka bow wow. So they all started out in a slave pen. They're with 10 NPCs. There's Bupido, crazy little Darrow. He was a lot of fun to play. Just running around doing really shady stuff. There's also a dwarven scout by the name of Eldis. She just wants to get home to Gauntlgrim. They haven't talked to her about that yet, but that'll come up. There is a Quaggoth named Prince Darindel, who claims to be a cursed elven prince, turned into a Quaggoth by a dark wizard named Trestor. Sorry, keep track of all these NPCs in my brain. Jimjar, the sly, wise-cracking deep gnome spy. He's important. We'll come back to him. You know, he's got some pretty fun moments in this moment. This vlog. If that's even what this is. I don't know. I've never done this before. So in Jimjar, there is Sereth Zekarat, a sullen, just like kind of down on his luck. Drow, male Drow. They imprisoned one of their own. Why? Because he's in there because he murdered someone. He's confident that he didn't do it and that he's being framed, but he's afraid he might have really lost his mind and done it. Shadows, funny things to my face. There's also Shushar, the Awakened, a Kuatoa monk, priesty kind of guy, pacifist, doesn't like fighting. He's a peaceful man. There's also Ront. Poor Ront. Ront had a bad day. He's an orc who he just had a really bad day. I'll tell you more about that in a sec. He ran away in combat and fell into the Underdark and got captured. For starters, that's bad enough. Yeah. There's also Stool, a Myconid sprout. He's like a kid. It's like a kid. Doesn't have a gender. There's also the twins, Topsy and Turvy. They are Svineblin, deep gnomes. They're twins. That's all the party knows about them so far. So there's the twins, Jimjar, the Drow, the prince, the crazy guy, the Myconid, and the Kuatoa. Yeah, that's all 10. So that's all of them. They were forced into hard labor, just doing things like Oh, take out the garbage. Pick up that pile of rocks, move it over there. Move it over there now. Coil this pile of rope. Recoil the pile of rope the opposite, clockwise this time instead of counterclockwise. And just stuff like that. They knew that the reason the drow were keeping them here was to sell them into slavery. So they're talking about a plan of how to escape. And Jim Jar starts telling them that, hey, maybe we sneak over to the guard tower and take out the guards, take their stuff, and that gives us a better chance? Question mark? Oh, my neck just popped. I don't know if you heard that or not. Yeah, so then the prison transfer came back. So 5 of the NPCs were out doing chores. The other 10 are in the slave pen, which is next to the Quaggoth pen. The drow guards and 1 Quaggoth come in briefly to let the other prisoners back in and then take others out. Noticing that Terendel Valar had broken his manacles and rushed in, and that's when William Darrington used his manacles that he had slipped off and garroted one of the drow. Prince Darendil fought the other Quaggoth. The party, the whole group, ganged up on the two onto the ungrappled drow, beat him up. This is the cool moment that I was going to tell you that I was talking about with Jim Jar, is the grappled guy died first. Grappled guy, as he's dropping to the ground, and his hand crossbow falls from his grasp, falls from his grip. Jim Jar runs, tucks and rolls, grabs the hand crossbow, just raises it up, and drow don't have that many hit points, and he's a level 3 rogue. He's a spy. So when he got sneak attack damage, and I rolled a 4, a 6, a 4 for the regular damage, a 6 and a 5 for the sneak attack, plus his dexterity modifier of, I think it's 2. And the players are joking, it's like he just rolls, tucks and rolls, and then shoots him in the eye, right? And I go, he tucks and rolls, he rolls damage, thunk, and the drow died. And they're just like, what? This Jim Jar guy is pretty hardcore. That's awesome. Meanwhile, Ront, has ran up to the other guy before this and is kind of immediated, punching, not really doing anything. They finish off the other, Darendel finishes off the other Quaggoth easily enough. They run outside. Sir Lan uses one of his portents to make sure that the drow don't notice them. Bupito runs off into the darkness and disappears near the guard tower. There's another Quaggoth out there that hears the noise and runs out and attacks, or rather that Seth attacks. Seth just runs over and starts attacking him, and he's holding his own, doing okay, and allies rush up to help him out. Meanwhile, Ront runs up, runs at him, tries to grapple the Quaggoth, and just falls flat on his face. And then on his next turn proceeds to get up and doing that thing. Just slap fight with the Quaggoth. It's just like, Ront was having such a bad day. They managed to get into the guard tower, where Bupito had already murdered one of the drow. They managed to kill a second, and then Bupito killed the other drow. Meanwhile, the drow elite warrior takes a crossbow bolt to the chest and rolls a natural 1 on his saving throw against poison. So he falls unconscious. The party rush in there, and everybody armors up. I mean, there's like 6 suits of chain shirts, 6 suits of studded leather, short swords, hand crossbows, daggers, everything that they could need. All right there, pretty much. They armor up in there, and then they find out that the rest of the drow know that they're there. They see Elvara leave her quarters and go to the elite barracks, probably, is where she goes to, because she grabs all the other drow. Leaving Shur in her quarters, where they were shagging, to slow down / deal with the group. Well, they managed to deal with him pretty effectively. They caught him off guard. And he tries to bargain with them that he will, have them escape, lying through his teeth, but desperate enough to make good. He'd probably give them like a 2-minute head start before sending everybody after them, kind of thing. When that goes sideways, he casts Starkness as a drow, special ability, and runs through and escapes. Gets pretty beat up on the way out, manages to cast Viscous Blob at Eldith, runs past, and after all of that is reduced to 1 hit point. And as he tries to escape, Sir Lon casts Sleep. Doesn't really bother rolling because he had 1 hit point, and he just unconscious. Terendel hates drow and had a moment where he picked up a caltrop that they found and just hucked it at him and missed. Would have been so cool if he had hit, just like thunk to the side of the head or something, back of the head. A caltrop just does the 1 point of damage and he's dead. But they killed him anyway, and managed to pick up his wand of viscous globs. At the same time, they noticed that a bunch of drow, a couple of drow elite warriors, Mr. Silvara, some Quaggoths, are all assembled across from them, and a very, very long, slogged out, intense fight followed. Ilvara got hit, I think, the first round. She summoned some spiders, summoned 2 giant spiders, to attack the monk, and hurt him pretty badly. And then the first person available after that took a shot at her with a drow bolt coated in poison, and she failed her save, and she fell down and was out for the rest of the fight. The other drow tried to drop them. In fact, Ront failed his save and just fell unconscious. Darendel failed his save and fell unconscious. Halt took enough damage to fall unconscious. They all started out as level 2 characters. I mean, they weren't super powerful. Terendel took a lot of hits and dropped to 0 hit points and became unconscious. William Darrington took some hits, but not enough to knock him out. Sareth, the drow, fell unconscious. That was helping them. They managed to recover their items from Ilvara's quarters, and picked up a few extra items along the way. including a bottle of blue liquor that leaves one pleasantly poisoned for 1d4 hours. That was fun when the monk found it, and it's like, there's this, it's a flask with this blue liquid in it, kind of syrupy, and he goes like, I take a sip, and I go, okay, roll a d4, 3. You are poisoned for 3 hours. Feel pretty good. So he probably won't be doing that in a battle anytime soon. Where was I? Yeah, so they did that. They managed, they noticed that Jorlan and Asha, the priestess, the junior priestess, are making no serious moves against them. They were before Ilvara collapsed. But after that, they were happy to let the other drow do the work. Neither of them made moves against the party. They're just like, we don't care. The ranger, I'm really bad at these names right now because I don't know everybody's characters super well yet. Halt Garrick tried sending message using the message spell to Jorlan, and like, hey, how about you don't take us captive and you let us go, and you and Asha can be lieutenant and priestess together. Just tell them to stop shooting at us. And Jorlan's response was, you guys aren't winning this fight right now. It's like, just kind of shrug. It's like, you guys aren't going to win right now. It's like, I got a bunch of drow, I got a bunch of quaggots. And yeah, it was, at one point, Halt Garrick took 2 crossbow bolts to the chest and rips one out and loads his own hand crossbow for him. I gave him a lot of extra XP for that cool moment. So yeah, at one point, eventually he drops, and they decide. William Darrington is like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. The only way out of here is through the spider webs and into the water. So that's what they did. He grabbed the unconscious form of Tyrandel Valar and rolled over into the webs, and a couple of turns later broke through the webs, or rather Serlan burned through the webs after he grabbed Halt and they rolled over. Jimjar grabbed Sereth and flew over, like jumped over. The twins took Stool and Bupito and Shushar, and they all jumped over. So the party all gets in the webs, splash into the water below, taking some damage. As the this was a good moment when they burned, when Serlan and William Darrington burned through the webs. They tried to swing from them as well, kind of like Tarzan style, to try and deal less damage to themselves, which worked. I reduced the damage by a d6, and because they were splashing into the water, I halved the damage, and then potentially halved it again if they made an athletics check, which Darrington did thanks to Serlan's second portent of the day. As they were swinging down, they did that, and then the monk, who decides to put on the headdress that they took from Ilvara's quarters, falls through the webbing and yells, "Swinging from the webs is for sissy!" and belly flops into the water, taking enough damage to knock him unconscious, except he's a half-orc. If he would drop to 0 hit points or less, he drops to 1 instead. So he chose to do that. And that's when we ruled that it was a belly flop that nearly knocked him out. Took the wind out of him for sure. As they are all leaving the water, they hear a buzzing and a screeching, and a bunch of demons fly into the cavern. And the party's like, "Oh, great. what are we supposed to do now? It's like we barely escaped with our lives. We are, running low on spells, running very low on hit points. They managed to find and use 2 potions of healing that they found in Alara's quarters. So they took those and used them. And then these demons show up, and one gets pretty messed up and lands next to them. And they're like, we gotta go. We gotta get out. We gotta run. And that's what they did. And they ran away, and they found a small little alcove in a cave. They encountered a shimmering purple energy feeling kind of thing as they walked through the caves, trying to escape. They did manage to find a small little. It's kind of like it does this kind of thing. So there's just this tiny little pocket kind of thing on the side of the wall that they are camped at. Sirlon actually did an interesting thing. We're going to pick up there next session in a couple of weeks, I think, is when we're going to be doing it. Everybody leveled up. They did well. They escaped, so they got XP for that. They did well in the combat, so that they got a lot of XP for that. They had to share that with the NPCs. Otherwise, they would have gotten a lot more, like a lot more. Which will probably slow their growth a little bit for now. Plus, I need to figure out which NPCs are with them and which ones wants to be with them. Poor Vaunt got left behind. He got knocked out of hit points as well as failed poison saves. Darendelle failed poison saves as well, so those 2 got left behind. Probably the best 2 out of that entire group of NPCs. Those 2 are probably the best-ish to be left behind. It doesn't really. Having 2 extra bodies with them, especially in Darendelle. Darendelle's a sack of hit points and has some decent attacks. He's got multi-attack, which is difficult to come by at this current level that they're at. Like the monk can make a bonus attack, but that's it. They've got a couple of levels before anybody gets an extra attack. So the paladin would get it, and the ranger would get it. He's deep stalker, so he gets an extra attack at level 5. Yeah, so that'll be a while, and it's gonna suck, and it might come back. We'll see. Elvara's gonna wake up, and she's gonna be pissed. She's gonna be like super pissed that these prisoners all escaped. It's not gonna be enough that 2 of them are still there. She's going to want revenge. She's going to want to come after them. So that's what that's what we did with episode 1 per se, session 1 of Out of the Abyss. And we'll come up with a cool name for them eventually. So I've never done this before. Like and subscribe, I guess. We'll see what happens next time on Out of the Abyss. This is Mickey's Magic. Signing out. Wink.